Okay. Are we live? Can people hear? Mm-hmm. I got one person watching. I got one like. Thank you. Thank you. I do hope the microphone's working. I checked everything. All right. So, unless someone tells me in the chat that they can't hear me, I guess I will just start. Okay. So, introductions. Hi, CB Smith here. And we are doing our first ever charity stream event. We will be reading from Harlan Ellison's short story Santa Claus versus Spider. It came out in 1969. Harlan Ellison is very prolific in his writings. He's been doing scripts for Star Trek. He's been technically the author of the Terminator movie through a lawsuit. Among many other things. And he wrote this short story back in 1969. And yeah, we will be starting very, very shortly, seeing if anyone else wants to show up. I decorated everything here with my fiance to make it all a little bit more Christmassy. Okay. So, I mentioned in the comments before, unfortunately, this channel is not popular enough to be monetized. So I sent a link over to a Venmo account to send the payments over. I know that's a little bit of inconvenience. I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately, I'm just not popular enough. And luckily, my buddies Joe and Sean over at the Movie Dumpster YouTube channel helped me in setting this up. Thanks, guys. So, right. So, as a reminder, all proceeds will be going to the JBJ Food Bank over here in New Jersey. It's a local food bank that I have benefited from about 10 years ago. Very, very helpful place. And I just want to pay back with this little charity stream. Since this is live, you're going to hear a lot of my my ums and my vocal tics that I so cleverly take out in my scripts. All right, so we got 3 people. All right, all right. I like it. I like it. Again, I'm not sure if anyone can hear me okay. Let me know in the comments. Mhm. Otherwise, we can start reading the story. All right. Again, as a reminder, the Venmo account will be used to collect the donations for the food bank. Okay. So, I get my reading voice here. I have my tea and my water here. It was half past September when the red phone rang. Chris moved away from the warm and pliant form into which she had been folded belly to back. Belly to back. I don't know. And rubbed a hand across sticky eyes. The phone rang again. He could not make out the time on the luminous dial of his wristwatch. What is it, honey? Mumbled the blonde woman beside him. The phone rang a third time. Okay, what voice should we have for Santa Claus? Amanda says we are here for me. Thank you. But I would like you to be here for the donations, Amanda. uh, okay, what voice should I give for Santa Claus? Should I do the ho 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 type thing, or since this is going to be like an action story, should he be all deep and grizzled? I said here as in hearing, learn to read, lol. Fine. That's good. That's a good comeback. Yeah. Uh, so I think since this is going to be like an action story, I think our Santa Claus would be like the deep grizzled action star Santa Claus. So what is it, honey? Mumbled the blonde woman beside him. The phone rang a third time. Nothing, baby. Go back to sleep. He soothed her. She burrowed deeper under the covers as he reached for the receiver, plucking it out of the cradle in the middle of a fourth imperative. Yeah. His mouth tasted unhappy. His mouth tasted unhappy. as opposed to sad. A voice on the other end said, "The king of Cannon needs your service." Cannon. Okay. Let's see. Chris sat up. Wait a minute. I'll take it on the extension. He thumbed the hold button, slipped out of the bed, even as he raked the receiver, and, naked, padded across the immense bedroom in the dark. So, naked Santa Claus. Keep that in your mind. He padded his way through the hall and into the front office, and guided his passage only by the barest touch of fingertips to walls. He pulled the bronze testimonial plaque from the little people away from the wall. He pulled the bronze testimonial plaque from the little people away from the wall. Like little people are on the wall, or oh, I don't. Oh, that's a weird sentence. And spun the dial on the wall safe and pulled it open. Okay, so it's a wall safe. The red phone with its complex scrambler attachment lurked in the circular opening. He punched out the code on the scrambler, lifted the receiver, and said, "The king fears the devil, and the devil fears the cross." Code and countercode. That is Santa Claus's secret code to enter his base of operations. All right, Chris Kringle. Okay. Mm. Drinking my tea for my throat. "Chris, it's Spider," said the voice on the other end. "Shit," he hissed. "Where?" "The States, Alabama, California, D.C., Texas." "Serious? Serious enough to wake you?" Right. Sorry. I'm still half asleep. What time is it?" "Half past September." Chris ran a hand through his thick hair. "Nobody any closer for this one." So we're going to learn some other people here. Belly Button was handling it. So some guy named Belly Button, which Chris said, "Yeah, and?" "He floated to the top off the coast of Galveston. He must have been in the Gulf for almost a week. They packed plastic charges on his inner thighs." Dang, Belly Button got freaking destroyed. All right. So Chris interrupts that, saying, "Okay, don't describe it. I'm mad enough at being shook out of sleep. Is there a dossier?" "Waiting for you at Hilltop." "I'll be there in 6 hours." So he racked the receiver, slammed the safe port, and spun the dial. He shoved the plaque back in place on the wall and stood with his ballad fist lying against the bronze. Faint light from a fluorescent left burning over one of the little people's drafting tables caught his tense features. So we do have elves described as little people, and we have drafting tables, so it's like a big operation table. The hard, mirthless lines of his face were the work of a what is that word? Giacometti. The work of a Giacometti. I think that might be a mob thing. I'm not sure. I'm getting text messages from my friends who are in the chat saying I can't read, which is really bad since this is a book channel. Oh boy. Let's see here. The eyes were gunmetal blue and flat, as though unseeing. The faintly cruel mouth was thinned to an incision. He drew a deep breath, and the muscle-corded body drew up with purpose. So that is the description of Santa Claus. Let's see. Hard, mirthless lines on his face, eyes gunmetal blue and flat, faintly cruel mouth thin to an incision, and muscle corded. And apparently he has not put on clothes yet. So this is our description of a naked Santa Claus: muscle corded, grizzled, mirthless lines on his face. Oh boy. Reaching over to his desk, he opened a drawer and rang 3 times sharply on a concealed button set into the underside of the drawer. Down below in the labyrinth, Popo would be plunging out of his cocoon, pulling on his loincloth and earrings, tapping out the code to fill the egress chamber with water. So someone named Popo is coming out of a cocoon. He's wearing a loincloth and earrings, and he's tapping out a code for Santa Claus. All right. All right. All right, Popo. Peace on earth, Chris murmured, starting back for the bedroom and his wetsuit. Santa Claus in a wetsuit. Is some great imagery, guys. Great imagery. Let's see here. Chapter 2. It's only like 20 pages, but it needs chapters. Okay. Popo was waiting in the grotto, standing on a let down shelf beside the air tanks. Chris nodded to the little one and turned his back. Popo helped him into his rig, and when Chris had cleared the mouthpiece, adjusted the oxygen mixture, Keeble, question mark, Popo inquired. Keeble. Okay. Sounds like it, Chris replied. He wanted to be on his way. Whoa. Oh, wow. What is Popo? Popo, what are you? The first words come out of his mouth is Keeble. And Chris is like, sounds like it. And then Popo replies, Dill neat pee me. I think I should have reread this before I chose this book. I'm at a loss. So Dill neat pee me, says Popo. In which Chris says, thanks, I'll need it. He moved quickly to the egress chamber, which had been filled and emptied. He undogged the wheel and swung the port open. A few trickles of Arctic water hit the basalt floor. He turned. Keep the toy plant going. And look into that problem on Tier 9 with Corlo. I'll be back in time for the holidays. So Santa Claus, secret agent, has a whole chamber underneath his toy factory going off to fight S.P.I.D.E.R. Let's see. He put one foot over the sill, then turned and added, if everything goes okay. He'll be back in time for the holidays if everything turns out okay. Suspense. In which our buddy Popo, who does not speak any English, says, Weeble Zex Funt. Okay. Chris replies, yeah, no war toys for you too. So Popo, I guess he was asking for war toys, and Chris is like, nope. So he stepped inside the egress chamber, spun the wheel hard to dog it, and signaled through the lucid port. Popo filled the chamber, and Chris blew himself out. The water was black and sub-zero. The homing light on the sub was his only comfort. He made it to the steel fish quickly, and within minutes was on his way. Once he had passed the outer extreme of the flow, he surfaced. What? Oh no. Okay, here we go. Surface converted to airborne, blew the tanks that extruded the pontoons, and taxied for a takeoff. Aloft, he made ramjet velocity and converted again. So, Santa Claus, secret agent, had a submarine that turned into a plane. Just a great image. Santa Claus in a wetsuit. 300 miles behind him, somewhere below the Arctic Ocean, Popo was rousing Corlo from his cocoon and chiding the hell out of him for putting European threading on all the roller skates, thereby making all the American keys useless. Oh no, poor Corlo's in trouble. Thanks T. Ashley for being my biggest fan. So chapter 3. Hilltop was inside a mountain in Colorado. The peak of the mountain swung open, allowing Chris's VTOL, the sub in its third conversion, to drop down onto the target pad. He went quickly to the secret place. Secret place. Ooh. The taskmaster was waiting for him with the dossier. Chris flipped it rapidly. Eidetic memory. So he has like spontaneous memory, like photographic memory. Spider again, he said softly. Then, with an inquiring tone, it means Society for Pollution, Infection, and Destruction of Earthmen's. So SPIDER is an acronym in which huh. So SPIDER is an acronym standing for special. Whoa, wait. I lost my place. Wow. I feel dumb. Baldy Bloke says, can't donate because Venmo isn't available in Germany. Do I have a PayPal or some other way to help out? Yes, I will pause the story here. We'll go back to describing what Spider is. I'm going to, for Baldy Bloke and anyone outside the US, I will simply send a link to the donation page to the food bank itself. You can just make a direct donation to there. If you want, you can put my name or your own name into it. Let's see here. Sorry about this. Just let me soul seasoning donation page. Okay. So I will put a link in. Here you go, Baldy. You can just make a direct link to the official website for the food bank. And I will make another link for the Venmo for those who are in the US or where Venmo is available. So you can make donations to either site to donate to the food bank. Okay. That seems to be it. Oh, we got 5 people watching. I like it. I like it. We're doing numbers. And my fiance is texting me saying, I'm doing a great job. Thanks, babe. So back to Santa Claus Secret Agent. And we're going to find out what Spider is. Taskmaster was waiting for him with a dossier. Chris flipped it rapidly. Spider again, he said softly. Then, with an inquiring tone, it means Society for Pollution, Infection, and Destruction of Earthmen's Resources. Is that it? The taskmaster shook his head. Chris ummed. He ummed. Mm. Well, what are they up to this time? I thought we put them out of commission after that anthrax business in the Valley of the Winds. So, ooh, we got backstory here. Just some tea because my throat's hurting. Santa Claus's voice is hard to do. The taskmaster tilted back in his plastic chair. The multifaceted eyeball globes around the room picked up pinpoints of brilliance from the chair and cast them over the walls in a subtle light show. Try to see who. It says you read there. It says you that. It's has you read there. They've taken over the minds of those 8. So, globe lit up, a bunch of lights, and it's 8 people taking over the minds of those 8. What they intend to do with them as puppets, we have no idea. Ooh, secret alien puppet masters. Okay, that's what Spider is. So, Chris scanned the list again. Reagan, Johnson, Nixon, Humphrey, Daly, Wallace, Maddox, and who's this last one? Spiro Agnew. Oh no. Alien puppet masters taking over the names of Ronald Reagan, possibly President Johnson, Richard Nixon, George Wallace. Oh, Baldy Bloke, $50. Oh man, that's amazing. Oh my god, thank you. That's actually really good. Oh my, I'm getting emotional, man. I hope that didn't break the bank for you, dude. All right, Baldy Bloke, he set the standard. Everyone got to donate like $50. Let's get this. Oh man, no, seriously, bro. Thank you. So this is back to the story. This is a political thriller where Mind control aliens are taking over the minds of various political leaders of 1960s America. Oh boy. So this last one, Spiro Agnew. It doesn't matter. We can usually keep them out of trouble, keep them from hurting themselves, but since Spider got into them, they've been running amok. So Spider got into these political leaders and then ran amok. so I Spider went into the minds of these political leaders and basically turned them into hard right Republicans. Yes. Yeah. Uh, Chris, Santa Claus says, I never even heard most of these people. How the hell could you up there making toys? It's the best cover I ever had. So Santa Claus is making toys and traveling around and giving toys away as a cover for his secret agent work. And he chose to do that. That wasn't like an assignment. That is, I love it. Uh, so don't get crabby. Just because you never see a newspaper, take my word for it. These are the names this season. 1969, according to author Harlan Ellison, 1969, this was the year that everything changed for all these political leaders. And all right. So Santa Claus says, whatever happened to that? What's his face? Wilkie. Didn't pan out, says the taskmaster. Spider, Chris said again. Does it stand for Special Politburo intent on destroying everybody's race? So we actually don't know what the acronym of SPIDER actually stands for. Okay. So that's another mystery. The taskmaster shook his head again, a bit wearily. Chris rose and pumped the taskmaster's hand. He rose and pumped the taskmaster's hand. Rose and pumped. From the dossier, I suggest the best place to start is with this daily in Chicago. The taskmaster nodded. Oh, sorry, that was Chris. That was Chris who was saying that. From the dossier, I suggest the best place to start is with this daily in Chicago. The taskmaster nodded. That's what Comp God said. Comp God, COMP is capitalized God. So that's the computer. That I think that's the computer that they have for headquarters. You better stop down and see the armorer before you leave. He's coupled up a few swell new surprises for you. Oh man, Santa Claus is going to get some weapons. Yeah. Will I be working that dumb red suit again? As a spare? Probably. It's a little too early for the red suit. What time is it? Half past September. At the end of chapter 3. So the red suit, the toy making and stuff, that's all a cover for Kris Kringle, secret agent. We actually don't know what Spider actually is in terms of a organization. And we are going to now visit a couple of real life political leaders of 1969. So, starting with chapter 4. When Chris emerged from the drop shaft, Miss 717's eyes grew round. Miss 717's eyes grew round. This is the first time we're hearing about Miss 717. He came forward, he came toward her with the easy, muscled stride that set him so far apart from the rest of the agents. Most of them were a little more than pudgy file clerks. Where had she ever gotten the idea that espionage was a line of work best suited for Adonises? Surely from the endless stream of bad spy novels that had glutted the newsstands. What a shock when she had discovered that pinching the trigeminal nerve to cause excruciating pain, or overpowering an enemy by cupping both hands and slapping both of his ears simultaneously, were tactics as easily employed by men who resembled acts as by beefcake contest winners. Tactics equally as effective when struck by gobbets of mud as by rodent statues. That is a sentence. That is a that is a sentence. So Miss 717, I think she's the armorer. who's going to give Kris Kringle his weapons. Um, and apparently, Kris Kringle is the most uh, buffest dude who ever joined the agency. So just jacked up Santa Claus. He came up to her desk and stared down silently until she dropped her eyes. Then, hello, Chan. So her name's Chan, but Miss 717. Oh, Harlan Ellison, you're so silly. She could not look at him. It was too painful. The Bahamas, that night. Ooh. A little steamy backstory here. Do we have a guest? I heard cats help with the algorithm. Myrtle, say hi to everyone. She's wearing a camo bandana because it's the only Christmassy thing I have for a bandana is green. You gonna hang out with us tonight? All right. You're just gonna hit me with that tail. Okay. I'm not mad. Oh, hi, baby. So, the Bahamas that night. The gibbous moon hanging above them like an all watching eye as the night winds played a wild accompaniment, counterpoint to their insensate passion, the lunatic surf breaking around them on the silver sands. The goodbye, the waiting, the report from upstairs that he had been lost in Tibet. She could handle none of it. So we have some steamy romance between Santa Claus and Miss 717 in the Bahamas. There's a lot of backstory here. Now, with him standing there, a thick white scar across the breastbone, now hidden by his shirt, but known to her nonetheless, a scar made by Tibor Kazlov's saber. She knew every inch of his flesh, and she could not answer. Well, answer, stupid. So she's reminiscing about this romantic time that they had together, and Santa Claus's reaction is, well, answer, stupid. Santa, you're a jerk. He seemed to understand, though. She spoke into the intercom. Kris is here, sir. The red light flashed on her board, and without looking up, she said, the armorer will see you now. Okay, so she was the secretary, not the armorer. He strode past her, seemingly intent on walking into the stone wall. At the late possible instant, it slid back smoothly and he disappeared into the armorer's workshop. The wall slid back, and 717 suddenly realized she had been fisting so tightly that her lacquered nails had drawn blood from her palm. So she was just clenching. All right, so we meet the armorer. The armorer was a thick-set, bluff man given to tweeds and pipes. His jackets were made specially for him on Seville Row, with many pockets to hold the infinitude of gadgets and pipe tools he constantly carried. Pipe tools, ooh. Kris, good to see you. He took the agent's hand and pumped it effusively. They just pumping away on these handshakes, man, just pumping. It's good to see you. Harris Tweed, said Kris. No, as a matter of fact, it's one of those miracle fibers. Kris replied, turning smooth. Oh, wait. Oh, that was Kris saying, okay, I messed up there. So the armor asked about Tweed, and Kris was like, no, it's miracle fibers. Kris replied, turning smoothly to show the center vent, depressed waist, Edwardian style patch pocket jacket. Something my man in Hong Kong whipped up. Like it? Elegant, the armorer said. Definitely undertones in this writing. There's a lot of tones, upper tones, undertones, sideway tones, all the tones. All right, so the armor is here. Should we give him like a bad British accent because he's like, he's the tool man. He's the one that's giving all the weapons and stuff. Elegant, the armorer said, but we aren't here to discuss each other's sartorial elegance, are we? They had a small mutual laugh at that, divided evenly. It took less than 10 seconds. Step over here, the armorer said, moving toward a wall rack where several gadgets were displayed on pegboard. I think you'll find these most intriguing. I thought I wasn't supposed to use the red suit this time, Chris said tartly. The red suit was hung neatly on a teak wood valet near the wall. The armorer turned and gave him a surprised look. Oh, who told you that? Chris touched the suit, fingered it absently. The taskmaster. The armorer's mouth drew down in a frown. He pulled a pipe from a jacket pocket and thrust it between his lips. So it's like a cigar? It was a Sassini fantail with an apple bowl shape. Oh, it's an actual pipe. Okay. Seriously in need of a carbon cake scraping. So just dude's been smoking a lot, and just a lot of carbon built up. Well, let us just say the taskmaster occasionally fails to follow his own lines of communication. He was obviously distressed, but Chris was in no mood to become embroiled in inter office politics. Show me what you've got, says Chris. The armorer pulled a small pen like shaped gadget off one of the pegboards. There's a clip on its upper end for attaching to a shin pocket. I'm proud of this one. I call it my deadly nightshade. He lit the pipe with a console butane lighter, turning up the flame till it was blue, just right for soldering. Chris took the penlight shaped gadget and turned it over. Neat. Very compact. The armorer looked like a man who has just bought a new car, about to ask a neighbor to guess how much he had paid for it. Ah, that was very descriptive. Ask me what it does. What does it do? Spreads darkness for a radius of 2 miles. Spreads darkness for a radius of 2 miles. So a little pen light gadget spreading darkness for 2 miles. And Chris's only reaction is, great. Great. No, really, I mean it. Just twist the clip to the right. No, no, don't do it now. For Christ's sakes, you'll blot out all of Hilltop. When you get in a spot and you need an escape, just twist the clip and psst, you've got all the cover you need for an escape. The armorer blew a dense cloud of pipe smoke. It was Murray's Aaronmore mixture, very I feel dumb. I can't say the word. Aromatic. It's very smelly. Uh, we got a couple different got a couple new watchers here. Just a reminder, we are reading Harlan Ellison's Santa Claus versus Spider, a silly little sci-fi story about secret agent Santa Claus. I have links for both the food bank itself if you want to make a direct donation, or to a Venmo account if you want to make a direct donation to me, and then we will donate to them at the end of the live drive. At the end of this drive. So back to the story. We just talked about a pen that would just cover everything in darkness for 2 miles. Chris kept looking at his suit. What's new with that? The armorer pointed with the stem of the pipe. It was a mannerism. Well, you've got the usual stuff, the rockets, the jetpack, the napalm, the mace, and the mace. Santa Claus's suit comes with a mace and also pepper spray. And then also the throwing knives, the high pressure hoses, the boot spikes, the 30 caliber machine guns, the acid, the flame marble beard, the stomach still uh, the flammable beard, the stomach still inflates into a raft, the flamethrower, the plastic explosives, the red rubber nose grenade. So Santa's nose is a grenade. The belt toolkit, the boomerang, the bolo, the bolas, the machete, the derringer, the belt buckle time bomb. Santa, that's a little overkill. We're not even done. Lockpick equipment, scuba gear, camera, and Xerox attachment in the hips, steel mittens with extensible hooks, gas mask, poison gas, shark repellent, because of course, a sterno stove, survival rations, microfilm library of 100 great books. Santa Claus is strapped, guys. That is that is a list. That is that's the Weird Al Yankovic Christmas when he went crazy and just shot up his whole toy store. Oh boy. Chris fingered the suit again. Heavy. But in addition, the armorer said happily, this time we've really extended ourselves down here in armor. You're doing a hell of a job. Thanks, sincerely, Chris. No, I mean, really. Yes, well, in addition, this time the suit has been fully automated, and when you depress this third button on the jacket, the entire suit becomes inflatable, airborne, and seals for high level flight. That i- that's an awesome suit. That's a lot. And here we thought he was just a jolly old fat man who just gives toys. Nope. Machine guns, inflatable stomachs. Chris pulled a sour face. If I ever fall over, I'll be like a turtle on its back. So it's just all the suit is just armor. He's just falling. He can't move. The armorer gave Chris a jab of camaraderie high on the left biceps. You're a great kidder, Chris. He pointed to the boots. Gyroscopes keep you level at all times. You can't fall over. So his boots are gyroscopes to fit in with the sled, I guess. We haven't even like discussed the sled. I don't know. We Does the sled have machine guns? I don't know. Santa says, I'm a great kidder. What else have you got for me? The armorer stepped to the pegboard and pulled off an automatic pistol. Try this. He depressed a button on the control console, and the east wall of the armory dropped, revealing a concealed firing range behind it. Silhouette targets were lined up at the far end of the tunnel. What happened to my Wembley? Chris asked. Too bulky, too unreliable. Latest thing you're holding, a Lassiter Krupp laser explosive. Sensational. Santa has a laser gun now. As if the machine gun wasn't enough, and the explosions and the pen that creates darkness. And Chris turned, showing his thinnest side to the mute silhouettes. He extended and locked his right arm, bracing it with left hand around right wrist. With his left hand around his right wrist. Okay, so he knows good trigger discipline. And he squeezed the trigger. A beam of light and a sibilant hiss erupted from the muzzle of the weapon. At the same instant, down the tunnel, all 10 of the silhouettes vanished in a burst of blinding light. Shrapnel and bits of stone wall ricocheted back and forth in the tunnel. The sound of their destruction was deafening. Aw, Santa Claus curses. Jesus, God in heaven, Chris murmured, turning back to the armorer, who was only now removing the glare blast goggles. Why didn't you warn me about this stupid thing? I can't use one of these. I have to be serendipitous, circumspect, unnoticed. This bloody thing would be fine to level Gibraltar, but it's ridiculous for hand to hand combat. Take it back. He thrust the weapon to the armorer. Ingrate. Give me my Wembley, you lunatic. Santa doesn't like his new laser weapon. Let's see. Take it. It's there on the wall, you short sighted slave of the establishment. Dang. The armorer's got an attitude. Chris grabbed the automatic and the deadly nightshade. Send the suit care of my contact in Montgomery, Alabama, he said, hurrying toward the door. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't, you moron. Ooh. There's trouble in the office. Chris stopped and turned. Listen, man, damn it, I can't stand here and argue with you about firepower. I gotta save the world. Hell yeah, Santa Claus. In which the armor replied, melodrama, lout, reactionary. Cranky bastard, and I hate your damned blunderbuss. That's what. I hate this stupid loud thing. He reached for the wall, which slid back and dashed through. Just before it closed completely, the armorer threw down his pipe, smashed it with his foot, and screamed, I miss the quote. Okay, so the armorer called Santa the cranky bastard and hated his damned blunderbuss, his old gun, and he hates the jacket too. Baldy Bloke says that his wife says my Santa voice is the same as Will Arnett's Batman. How do we know Santa Claus is not Batman? We have not seen them in the same place at the same time. We don't know. So that is a slur that I'm not going to use, but basically the armor just hates the red suit too. He hates the jacket. So that's the end of chapter 4. I'm going to take a quick water break. Throat's getting dry. But thank you, Mrs. Baldy Bloke. I like Will Arnett's Batman. He's always fun. Darkness, no parents. So, chapter 5. Chicago, from the shore drive, looked like one immense burning garbage dump. They were rioting again on the south side, and from the direction of Evanston and Skokie could be seen twin spiraling arms of thick black smoke. Okay, so there's a riot in Chicago. It's 1969, so see, I'm not familiar with my Chicago history, unfortunately. I know there was one in the 50s, so I'm not familiar about this one. In Evanston, the DAR was looting and burning. In Skokie, the DAR had joined with the women of the WCTU from Evanston, and the offices of a paperback pornographer were being razed. The city was going insane. So there was looting of a pornography store. Okay. Chris drove the rental birdcage Maserati into Ohio Street, turned right onto the underground ramp of the motel, and let the attendant take it, carrying only his attaché case. He made it for the fire exit leading up to the first floor of the motel. Once inside the stairwell, however, he turned to the blank wall, used his sonic signaler, I'm guessing it's like Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver, and the wall pivoted open. He hurried inside, closed the wall, and threw the attaché case onto the double bed. The waiting. The waiting light was glowing on the closed circuit television. He flicked the set on, stood in front of the camera, and was pleased to see that his Chicago contact, Freya, was wearing her hair long again. So the author here talked about how this was basically Santa Claus 007. So Freya, his Chicago contact, seems to be a bit of a Bond girl, like Miss 717. So later on, Santa says to Freya, "Hello, 1019." So their code names. "Hello, Chris. Welcome to the Windy City. You've got big troubles. How soon do you want to start? I've got Daily pinpointed." "How soon can I get to him?" "Tonight." "Soon enough. What are you doing at the moment?" "Not much." "Where are you?" "Down the hall." "Come on over." "In the afternoon?" "A healthy mind and a healthy body." "See you in 10 minutes." "Where the oh. Oh, they're not even like usually in the Bond movies, don't they have like an actual like a moment to not to like get to know each other, but like they have moments together. Nah, Santa Claus is just like, nope, come to my hotel room. Chapter 6. Dressed entirely in black, the Wembley in an upside down breakaway rig, its butt just protruded from his left armpit. Chris pulled himself across the open space between the electrified fence and the dark, squat powerhouse, his arms and legs crab like in the traditional infantryman's crawl. Inside the so Santa Claus is low crawling to the powerhouse. Inside that building, Daly had been pinpointed by 1019's tracking equipment. He had been there for almost 2 days, even through the riots. Chris had asked Freya what he was up to. There in the powerhouse, she had not known the entire building was damped, impenetrable to any sensors she had employed. But it was spider business. Whatever it was, they had to be for dead certain. For a man in his position to be closeted away like that, while his city went up in flames. That had to be for dead certain. So, again, I'm not familiar with Chicago history. Daley seems to be the mayor of Chicago during the time of this riot. And considering that we're going to be doing a bunch of, since we are going to be visiting a bunch of other political leaders, I'm presuming he's based off a real guy. Anyone familiar with Chicago history, comment, please let me know who Daley is. Now I'm kind of interested. Pseudo Didex says that he just got back from watching Avatar 2. He highly recommends it. I've only ever seen Avatar 1 once on my friend's iPod Touch on a road trip. So that's my only experience with the first Avatar. So I think I'll see Avatar 2 with in a bigger TV, and I'll probably enjoy it more. Digging hard, he dashed away from the building 30 feet. I skipped ahead. So he breaks into the building. When he was through, arching into the powerhouse, performing a tight somersault and coming down with knees still bent, absorbing the impact up through his hips. Glass tinkled all around him. His black suit was ripped raggedly down across the chest. His right arm came out straight, and the Wembley extended. So Santa Claus just got his gun out. Light suddenly flooded the powerhouse. Chris caught the scene in one total impression. Everything. Daly was hunched over an intricate clockwork mechanism set high on a podium like structure at the far end of the room. Black light equipment throughout the room still glowed an evil, rotting purple. Three men wearing skin tight outfits of pale green, like were starting toward him, pulling off black light goggles. So Daly has just an entourage of the Riddler. Let's see. A fourth man still had his hand on the knife switch that had raised the interior lights. There was more. Chris saw great serpentine connections running from Daly's clockwork mechanism, snaking across the floor to hookups in the walls. A blower system, immense and bulky, dominated one entire wall. Vats of some bubbling dark substance, almost like liquid smoke, ranked behind the podium. Stop him, Daly screamed. I don't know the actual historical Daly, so I'm not going to try an impression. I don't know him. Chris had only a moment as the three men in green came for him, and in that instant he chose to firm his resolve for what was certainly to come. He always had this instant on every assignment, and he had to prove to himself that it was right, what he must do, however brutal. He chose in that instant to look at Daly, and his resolve was firmed more eloquently than he could have hoped. This was an evil old man. Someone look up Daly in Chicago, 1960s. I'm really curious on this evil old man. What might have been generous old age in another man had been cemented into lines of unspeakable ugliness. This man was evil incarnate, totally owned by Spider. Oh man, this is going to be a political book. Okay, I mean it's a political thriller. That makes sense. Sorry, I got like a bit of a sinus infection. I'm gonna try my best not to blow my nose. The three green men lumbered forward, big men, heavily muscled, faces dulled with malice. Chris fired. He took the first one in the stomach. Oh. Uh, he fired. So okay, so Santa Claus fired, and so one of the Riddler henchmen got it in the stomach, spinning him back and around into one of his companions, who tried to sidestep but went down a twist of arms and legs as the first green man died. Santa Claus murdered a man. Santa, he murdered a man. He pumped 3 shots into the tangle, and the arms and legs ceased moving, save for an occasional quiver. The third man broke sideways and tried to tackle Chris. He pulled back a step and shot him in the face. Santa! He shot a man in the face. Baldy bloke's got to go. Baldy, thank you so much for that donation, man. Like I said, you set the standard. Everyone's got to they got to one up you, man. $50. That's so awesome. You guys, have a good night. Let's see. The green man went limp as a Raggedy Andy doll and settled comically onto his knees, then tumbled forward onto the meat that had been his head. Wow. As though what had happened to his companions meant nothing to the fourth man, he stretched both arms out before him, zombie like, and stumbled towards Chris. The agent disposed of him with one shot. So the Riddler henchmen in the green bodysuits may be zombies. So that means it's okay that Santa murdered them. Yeah, because they were just zombies. Then he turned to Daly. The man was raising a deadly looking hand weapon with a needle muzzle. Chris threw himself flat out to the side. It was only empty space that Daly's weapon burned with its beam of sizzling crimson energy. Chris rolled and rolled and rolled right up to the blower system. Then he was up, had the Wembley leveled, and yelled, "Don't make me do it, Daly." "Oh, I'm sorry, Santa. Were the other henchmen, worthy of being shot at? But Daly is, fine. We just got told he's an evil, evil man." The weapon in Daly's hand tracked, came to rest on Chris, and the agent fired at that moment. The needle-nosed weapon shattered under the impact of the steel-jacketed round, and Daly fell backward off the podium. Chris was on him in a moment. He had him up by his feet, thrust against the podium, and a two-fingered paralyzer applied to a pressure point in the clavial depression before Daly could regain himself. Daly's mouth dropped open with the pain, but he could not speak. Chris hauled him up on the podium a bit more roughly than was necessary and threw him down at the foot of the clockwork mechanism. It was incredibly complex, the timers and chromographs hooked in somehow between the vats of bubbling smoke and the blower system on the wall. Chris was absorbed in trying to understand precisely what the equipment did. When he heard the sigh at his feet, he glanced down just in time to see something so hideous he could not look at it straight on. Emerging from Daly's right ear. Daly was mind controlled. It slithered and scuttled onto the floor of the podium and then exploded in a black puff of soot and filth. When Chris looked again, all that remained was a dusty smear that what might be left should be a child set fire to a heap of powdered magnesium and potassium nitrate. Daly stirred. He rolled over on his back and lay gasping. Then he tried to sit. Chris knelt and helped him to sitting position. Oh my God, Daly mumbled, shaking his head as if to clear it. The evil was gone from his face. Now he was little less than a kindly old gentleman who had just been sick for a very, very long time. Thank you, whoever you are, thank you. Chris helped Daly to his feet, and the old man leaned against the clockwork mechanism. They took me over years ago, he said. Spider, eh? Chris said. Yes, slipped inside my head, inside my mind. Evil, totally evil. Oh God, it was awful. The things I've done, the raw and unconscionable things. I'm so ashamed. I have so much to atone for. Okay, so Daily of Chicago has been under my control for a couple years now by some alien Lovecraftian creature inside his head, and Santa Claus saved him. Merry Christmas, everyone. So, Daly says he did so many unconscionable things, and then Santa says, "Not you, Your Honor," said Chris. "Spider, they're the ones who will pay, even as this one did." The black splotch. She points to it. So, Your Honor. So, I guess Judge Daly of Chicago, 1960s. I'm going to do some research when I'm done with this stream. I'm really curious now who he is and all the evil, unconscionable things that he did. So Daly says, "No, no, no, it was me. I did all those terrible things. Now I have to clean it all up. I'll tear down the South Side slums, the backyard squalor. I'll hire the best city planners to make living space for all those black people I ignored that I used shamelessly for my own political needs." Oh, oh. So Spider made Judge Daly create a bad housing development for African Americans. Okay. So he's gonna Now he's going to set things right. He's not going to make soulless high rises wherein people stifle and lose their dignity, but decent communities filled with light and laughter. And I'll feed. Okay, this one's. And I'll free the Polacks and all the machine politics I used to use assigned contracts to inadequate builders. I'll tear down all those unsafe buildings and have them done right. I'll disband the secret Gestapo I've been gathering all these years and hire only those men who can pass a stringent police exam that will take into account how much humanitarianism they have in them. So, shout out to my group of people, Polish people. Apparently, Judge Daly is going to free us. Again, I wish I looked up Chicago in the 1960s. I have no idea this part of history, but now I'm interested. But he's gonna also reform the police. Okay. Bear in mind, this is 1969. This book came out, so if there's um, anyone thinking about like modern stuff, the book is over 50 years old at this point. Let's see. I'll landscape everything so the city will be beautiful. And then I'll have to give myself up for trial. I hope I don't get more than 50 years. I'm not that young anymore, says Daly. Chris sucked on a tooth reflectively. Don't get carried away, Your Honor. Then he indicated the clockwork machine. What was this all about? Daly looked at the machine with loathing. We'll have to destroy it. This was my part of the 8-point plan S.P.I.D.E.R put into operation 24 hours ago to he stumbled to a halt. A confused, perplexed look spread over his kindly features. He bit his lower lip. Go on, Chris urged him. To do what? What's S.P.I.D.E.R's master plan? What is their goal? Daly spread his hands. I don't know. Then tell me, who are they? Where do they come from? We've battled them for years, but we have no more idea of who they are than when we started. They always self destruct themselves like that one. He nodded toward the sooty smear on the podium. And we haven't been able to capture one. You're the first pawn of theirs that we've ever captured alive. So, Spider is apparently this creature that just goes into people's bodies. And this Judge Daly is the first person that they managed to get. Daly kept nodding all through Chris's unnecessary explanation. When the agent was finished, he shrugged. All I remember, whatever it was in my head there, it seems to have kept me blocked off from learning anything very much. All I remember is that they're from another planet. Ah, aliens. Chris almost shouted, aliens, instantly grasping what Daly had said. An 8-point plan, the other 7 names on the list, and yourself, each of you taking one phase of a master plan, yada, yada, yada. Daly looked at him. You have a genuine gift. You have a genuine gift for stating the obvious. Very true. Daly looked at him. I like this. Santa says that he likes to synthesize things, amalgamate. Let's see. As a matter of fact, Mayor Daly, you go on. Tell me what this equipment here is supposed to do. It's still doing it. We haven't shut it off. They've just been sitting here talking about this machine and no idea like what the machine's doing. Oh boy. Well, how do we shut it off? Well, you push that button. Chris pushed the button, and almost immediately the vat stopped bubbling. The smoke light substance in the vat subsided, and the blower ceased blowing. The clockwork machine slowed and stopped. The cuckoo turned blue and died. Hoses flattened. The room became silent. What did it do? Chris asked. It created and sowed smog in the atmosphere. You're kidding. I'm not kidding. You don't really think smog comes from factories and cars and cigarettes, do you? It cost S.P.I.D.E.R a fortune to dummy up reports and put on a publicity campaign that it was cars. Oh no. In actuality, I've been spreading smog into the atmosphere for 24 years. You don't. Oh no. Harlan Ellison. Is this a global warming denial book? Smog comes from these weird machines, not cigarettes, cars, and factories. Oh no. Son of a gun, Chris said with awe. Then he paused, looked cagey, and asked, tell me, since we now know that S.P.I.D.E.R are aliens from outer space, does it mean they stand for Scabrous predatory invaders determined to eliminate rationality. We're all going to try and figure out what S.P.I.D.E.R's acronym is. Daly stared at him. Don't ask me. No one tells me anything. So Daly doesn't know anything. He jumped down off the. I have no zero zone. I have no ozone, and I must pollute. There you go, pseudo didact. I have no ozone, and I must pollute. Oh, that's a reference to another Harlan Ellison story. Oh, it just took me a minute. I'm sorry, man. So they jumped down off the podium and started for the door to the powerhouse. Chris looked after him, picked up a crowbar, and set about destroying the smog machine. When he had finished, sweating and surrounded by crushed and twisted wreckage, he looked up to see Daly standing by the open door leading outside. Something I can do for you, he asked. No, Santa. Santa said that. Something I could do for you. Daly smiled wistfully. No, just watching. Now that I'm a nice fella again, I wanted to see my last example of random brutal violence. It's going to be so quiet in Chicago. Tough it out, baby, Chris said with feeling. What is tough it out, baby, with feeling say? Tough it out, baby. So that was chapter 7. We are going along pretty nicely. We just went through our first political person who was taken over by S.P.I.D.E.R. We don't know what they mean. And the goal apparently is to create smog. I'm going to link again to the donations because I am not popular enough to be monetized. So super chats are not a thing here. So I am making 2 links right here. One is for a Venmo account. That way I can make the donation from me to the food bank and also directly to the food bank if you want to make a donation that way. We had someone here before who wasn't able to use Venmo. I'm going to drink some water. And then continue with Santa Claus versus S.P.I.D.E.R, whatever S.P.I.D.E.R means. Okay. The 8-point plan seemed to tie together in Alabama. We're in Alabama now. Wallace. But Wallace was off campaigning for something or other, and apparently the 8-point plan needed his special touch. Filter through the even gentler touch of a S.P.I.D.E.R operative inside his head to be tied together. Chris decided to save Wallace for the last. Time was important, but Freya was covering for Daly and the death of the smog machine in Chicago. And frankly, time be hanged. Time be hanged. And frankly, time be hanged. Time be hanging. Suitors from Alabama. Nice. Well, we're going to save you for last, apparently. I think that's George Wallace, who famously was running for president as a independent. Pseudo, I'm sorry, but George Wallace's legacy was pro-segregation. So I think S.P.I.D.E.R was taking over his mind to make him a racist. So that's what my prediction is for the story. Time will be hanged. It looked like the last showdown with S.P.I.D.E.R, so Chris informed Hilltop he was going to track down and eradicate the remaining 7 points of the plan, with Wallace coming under his attention around Christmas time. It would press Chris close, but he was sure Popo was on the job at the factory. Popo was one of the assistants who came out of a cocoon and does not speak English, but speaks gibberish for people who just came into the stream. Popo was on the job at the factory, and what had to be done had to be done. It was going to be anything but easy. He thought wistfully of his Arctic home, the happily buzzing toy factory, the way Blitzen particularly nuzzled his palm when he brought the sugar cubes drenched. Oh, okay. I thought this was going to be cute. The Arctic home, happily buzzing toy factory. He's reminiscing about the way Blitzen particularly nuzzled his palm when he brought the sugar cubes drenched in LSD, and the way the little mothers flew when they got loaded. Now we know why he's called Blitzen. Sugar cubes with LSD. Chris pulled his thoughts away from happier times. and cooler climes. Setting out to wreck Spider, he took the remaining 7 in order. Ooh, okay. Now we're going with Reagan in Carmelo, California. Ronald Reagan, 1969. I think at that point he was governor of California. Oh boy. Oh boy. Having closed down all the state mental institutions on the unassailable theory that no one was really in need of psychiatric attention. Oh god, now I have to do a Reagan impression. Okay, give me a second. Well, it's all in their heads, Reagan had said at a $500 a plate American Legion dinner only 6 months earlier. Chris found him in the men's toilet on the first floor of the abandoned Carmarello State Facility, combing his pompadour. Uh, Someone tells me I should drink water. That's actually my fiance. Always looking after me, baby. Thank you. All right. So, Ronald Reagan in the bathroom of a state facility, combing his pompadour, and Santa Claus comes out behind him. Reagan spun around, seeing Chris's reflection in the mirror, and screamed for help from one of his zombie assistants, a man in green who was closeted in a pay toilet. In parentheses, inmates had been paid a monthly dole in regulation Golden State script converted from money sent to them by married children who didn't want their free go. Okay. This script could be used to work the pay toilets. Reagan had always believed in a pay. Reagan has always believed in a pay as you go system of state government. Pay as you go. Yeah, yeah, that's arguable. But yeah, paid toilets. I think that was actually a thing. Yeah, toilets like you got to put money into a toilet in order to use it, like a public toilet. Oh, that must suck. Chris hit the booth with a savage kick that shattered the door just as the man in green was emerging, the side of his shoe collapsing the man's spleen. Then the agent hurled himself on Reagan in an attempt to capture him, subdue him, and somehow keep the spider symbiote within Reagan's head from self-destructing. But the devilishly devil the devilishly handsome Reagan abruptly pulled away, and as Chris watched horrified, he began to shimmer and change shape. In moments, it was not Reagan standing before Chris, but a 7-headed hydra breathing from its 7 mouths. Fire, ammonia clouds, dust, broken glass, chlorine gas, mustard gas, and a combination of halitosis and rock music. Yes, Ronald Reagan Hydra. Why not? 3 of the heads lunged forward. 3 of the heads, the one with the dust, the chlorine gas, and the mustard gas, are lunging forward on their serpentine necks, and Chris flattened against the toilet wall. His hand darted into his jacket and came out with a ballpoint pen. He shook it twice, anti-clockwise, and the pen converted into a two-handed sword. Wielding the carver easily, Chris lay about him with vigor. In a few minutes, the 7 heads had been severed. Okay, I need someone to make an artist's interpretation of this. I want muscle bound Santa Claus wielding a two-handed sword, cutting the heads off of a Hydra Ronald Reagan. We need this in the world. We need this out in the universe. That is just a beautiful image. Chris aimed true for the heart of the beast and ran it through. The great body thumped over on its side and lay still. It shimmered and changed back into Reagan. Then the black thing scampered out of his ear, erupted, and smeared the floor tiles with soot. Later, Reagan combed his hair and applied pancake makeup to the glare spots on his nose and cheekbones and moaned piteously about the really funky things he had done under the stupefying and incredibly evil direction of Spider. He swore he didn't know what the letters of the organization's name stood for. Chris was depressed. Reagan then showed him around the Carmelo plant, explaining that his part of the 8 point plan was to use the great machines on the second and third floors to spread insanity through the atmosphere. They broke up the machines with some difficulty. Much of the equipment was very hard plastic. Reagan assured Chris he would work with Hilltop to cover the demise of the second phase of the 8 point plan, and that from his day forward, he raised his hand in a Boy Scout salute that he would be as good could be. He would bring about much needed property tax reform. Nazzing he would stop nodzing the students at UCLA. He would subscribe to the LA Free Press, the Avatar, the East Village Other, the Berkeley Board, and Open City, and all the other underground newspapers so he could find out what was really happening. And within the week, he would institute daily classes in folk dancing, soul music, and peaceful coercion for members of the various police departments within the state. He was smiling like a man who has regained the innocence of childhood or nature that he had somehow lost. Okay, so Reagan is now a good guy. The evil spider has been destroyed. So no more AIDS crisis. Yay! So that's Ronald Reagan. Now we have Johnson in Johnson City, Texas. Ooh. President Johnson. Okay. Chris found him, Johnson, eating mashed potatoes with his hands. Sitting apart from the rest of the crowd, he looked like hell. He looked weary. He was half an eaten cow on a there was half an eaten cow on a spit turning lazily over charcoal embers. Chris settled down beside him and passed the time of day. He thought Chris was with the party. He belched. Then Chris snapped a finger against his right temple and dragged his unconscious form into the woods. When Johnson came around, he knew it was all over. The spider symbiote scuttled, erupted, smeared on the dead leaves. It was now the middle of October, and Johnson said he had to hurry off to stop the war. Chris didn't know which war he was referring to, but it sounded like a fine idea. So President Johnson needs to go and stop Vietnam now. The spider was responsible for Vietnam. Okay. Tell me, Chris said earnestly, does SPIDER stand for secret prayers involving and demolishing everything right-minded? Or is it something even more obscure? Johnson spread his hands. He didn't know. Johnson told him his part of the 8 point plan was fermenting war and butchering babies. But now that was all over, he would recall the troops. He would let all the dissenters out of prison. He would retool for peace. He would send grain to needy nations. He would take electrocution lessons. Chris shrugged and moved. Chris just shrugs and moves on. Just moves on. We have Humphrey and Nixon. Humphrey, I think was Humphrey Nixon's first vice president? Because I know Spirit Agnew, but I'm not sure who Humphrey is. It was a week after the election. One of them was president. It didn't matter. The other one was shilling for the opposition. Oh, okay. So he was okay. So he was the guy that was running against Nixon. Okay. And between them, they divided the country down the middle. Nixon was trying to get a good shave, and Humphrey was trying to learn to wear contact lenses that would make his eyes look bigger. You know, Dick, the trouble is, basically, I got funny little eyes like a bird, you know? Nixon turned from the mirror on the office wall and said, oh, so now I have to do Nixon. Oh, God. Okay. A Nixon voice. All right. All right, Richard Nixon. You should complain. I've got 5 o'clock shadow and it's only 3:30. Who's that? Humphrey turned in an easy chair and saw Kris Kringle. Goodbye, Spider, Chris said, and fired sleep darts at each of them. Before the darts could hit, the black thing scuttled, erupted, and smeared. Damn, Chris said, and left the office without waiting for Nixon and Humphrey to regain consciousness. It would be a week or two before that happened in any case. The armorer wasn't yet on target when it came to gauging how long people stayed under with these darts. Chris left because he knew their parts of the 8 point plan were to confuse issues, to sow confusion and dissension in the atmosphere. Johnson had told him that much. Now they would become sweet fellas. Now they would become sweet fellas, and the president would play like he had a watchbird watching him, saying, "No, no." Christmas was fast a coming, and Chris was homesick. That was chapter 10. We are moving along pretty good. So we are like halfway done with this 8-point plan. All these politicians were taken over mind control. Love Richard Nixon Hydra. That is just mwah, beautiful. Santa Claus slicing the heads off of Ronald Reagan Hydra. We are almost done. Yeah. So we have Maddox. So chapter 11. Spider tried to kill Chris in Memphis, Detroit, Cleveland, Great Falls, and Los Angeles. They missed. So now we're at Maddox in Atlanta, Georgia. It was too ugly to describe. It was the only spider pawn that Chris had to kill, with a little gold axe handle, a souvenir of Maddox's famous restaurant. Chris destroyed. Oh, that's a slur. So Maddox is a racist, but the book is using a slur. I'm not going to know. So Maddox is a hating machine, and part of the 8-point plan. Okay, yeah. So he killed Maddox, and then Santa ate fried chicken all the way to Montgomery, Alabama. Okay. 1969. Just a fun year for stories. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So we're now in George Wallace in Montgomery, Alabama. The red suited Santa Claus. Okay, so we're near Christmas now. So now he's actually in the red suit. He trudged across the open square in front of the Montgomery State Building, clanging his little brass bell. This Santa Claus was fat, jolly, bearded, and possibly the deadliest man in the world. Yeah, we've seen him be that. Yep. Chris looked around him as he plowed through the ankle deep snow. The state buildings were clustered around the perimeter of the circular square, and he had a terrible prickling feeling up and down his spine. It might have been the cumbersome suit with all its equipment, so confining it made him sweat even in the midst of December 24th cold and whiteness. His boots were soaking wet from the snow, his pace measured, and he climbed the state house steps, watching. You would think all his really cool gadgets, like they would waterproof his boots. Everything was closed down for the holidays, all Alabama state facilities. Yet there was movement inside the city. Last minute shoppers hurrying to fulfill their quotas as happy consumers, children scurrying here and there, seeming to be going somewhere, but probably just roaming. Chris always smiled when he saw the kids. They were truly the only hope. They had to be protected, not cut off from reality, but simply protected. And the increasing cynicism in the young had begun to disturb him. Yet it seemed as though the young activists were fighting against everything Spider stood for, unconsciously, but doing a far better job than their elders. All right. All right. Harlan Ellison's got his heart in the right place, right in this book. He's basically taking the old boomer activist ideology of the kids are doing all right. Okay. I like that. A man hurrying past down the steps, bundled to the chin in a heavy topcoat, glanced sideways, squinting and ignoring the outstretched donation cup the Santa Claus preferred. Chris continued on up. The tracking devices inside the fur tasseled hat he wore now bleeped, and the range finding trackers were phasing higher as Chris neared Wallace. It was going to be a problem getting into the building, but then, if it weren't for problems making it necessary to carry such surfeit of equipment in the red suit, Santa Claus would be a thin figure. Ho, 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 Chris murmured, expelling puffs of frosty air. And as he reached the first landing of the State House, Chris began the implementation of his plan to gain access. Fingertipping the suit controls in the palm of his right mitten, he directed the high pressure hoses toward a barred window on the left wing of the State House. Once they had locked in directionally, Chris coded the tubes to run acid and napalm, depressed the firing studs, and watched as the hoses sprayed the window with acid, dissolving bars and glass alike. Then the napalm erupted from the hoses in a burning spray, arcing over the snow and striking the gaping hole in the face of the State House. And In moments, the front of the State House was burning. Secret agent Santa Claus trying to get in, sneaking into the State House, lights it on fire. Yes. Chris hit the jetpack and went straight up. When he was hovering at 200 feet, he cut the rockets and zoomed over the State House. The rockets died and Chris settled slowly, then cut out the jetpack. He was on the roof, unseen, and the fire would keep their attention. But they just saw a Santa like firebomb the front of the State House. Like, that's not, you were not conspicuous, Santa Claus. At this point in the stage of the 8-point plan, they would be expecting him, but they wouldn't know it would be this formidable an assault force. The Geigers were giving a hot reading from the north wing of the State House. His 7 league boots allowed the boots that leak, mind you. They allowed him to leap over in 3 strides, and he packed plastic charges along the edges of the roof, dampening them with implosion spray so the force of their blast would be directed straight down. I don't think that's how explosions work. Then he set the timer and leaped back to the section of roof where his trackers gave him the strongest Wallace reading. Extending the hooks in his mittens, he cut a circular patch in the roof, then burned it out with acid. Again with the acid. It hung in its place. Suddenly, the plastic charges went off on the roof of the north wing, and under cover, in the tumult, he struck. He used the boot spikes, the boots that are not waterproof, to kick in the circular patch he cut in the roof. The circular opening had cut through the roofing material. Now he used the again with the flamethrower, to burn through the several layers of plaster and beaming till all that stood between him and the entrance was the plaster of the ceiling. He withdrew a grenade from the Santa just wants to use all his toys, man. Like, that's I I I can't blame him. The armor would give me all those toys. I would probably use them too. He withdrew a grenade, pulled the pin, released the handle, and dropped it into the hole. There was a sharp, short explosion, and when the plaster dust cleared, he was free to leap down inside the Alabama State House. Chris jumped, setting the boots for light bounce. Again, the boots with all these cool stuff can't even be waterproof. He jumped into a readily waiting group of green-suited zombies. Those poor Pete. Like, are they also controlled by Spider? I don't think we know about that. Ho ho ho! Chris chortled. What does chortle? What does chortled mean? He opened. I should have paused there. Opening up with the machine guns. Bodies spun and flopped and caroomed off walls, and seconds later, their reception squad was stacked high in its own seepage of blood. Santa Claus mass murdering people with machine guns. I don't want an artist rendition of that. No. They had barricaded the doors to the room. Chris now had no time for lockpicks. He pulled off his red rubber nose and hurled it. Oh, yeah, his red rubber nose. That was also a grenade, wasn't it? The doors exploded outward in a cascading shower of splintered toothpickery. Plunged through the smoke, still flying wreckage, hit the hallway, turned to follow the pinging urgency of his trackers. Oh no, Wallace was moving. He's trying to get away? Maybe. Hauling out his bolo knife, he dashed forward again. Green suited zombies came at him from across corridor, and he hacked his way through them without a pause. He had a sword. He just wanted to use the knife. A shot spanged off the wall beside his ear, and he half turned, letting a throwing knife drop into his hand from its oiled sheath. The marksman was half in, half out of a doorway down the corridor. Chris let the knife slid down his palm, caught it by the tip, and in one quicksilver movement, overhanded it. The knife just scored the edge of the door jamb and buried itself in the zombie's throat. He disappeared inside the room. You know, there's that new Santa Claus movie coming out where he's being super violent to a bunch of bank robbers. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Violent Night. I want a crossover between these two Santas. I think it'll just be a blast. The trackers were now indicating a blank wall at the end of the cul-de-sac. Chris came at it, full out, his suit's body armor locked for ramming. He hit the wall. And went right through. Behind the blank face of the cul-de-sac was a stone stairway, leading down into the darkness. Zombies looked on these stairs. Are they all wearing green suits? I think so. I don't know why they're wearing green. The 30 cal was good enough for them. Chris fled down the stairs. He fled down. I don't. Fleeing implies that you're going away, but in this instance, Santa Claus is fled. He's fleeing down the stairs, firing up ahead of him. The zombies peeled away and fell into darkness. At the bottom, he found the underground river and saw the triangle. There's an underground river underneath the Montgomery State House. Okay. Saw the triangle black blades of sharks. Yes. Uh, oh no. Oh, Richard Kimball. My grocer fired me and I don't start painting houses until Monday, so all I can offer is my own bridal. Oh, dude, no, that's totally fine. Thank you for the support either way. Um, that really stinks, man. Like your grocer fired you like right before Christmas. Yeah, it sucks. I'm sorry, man. But it's a good thing you like I'm glad you got another job, man. I gladly accept the unbridled love. Or bridled love. No, my fiance gives me the bridled love. But I'll accept your unbridled one. So underneath the Alabama State House in Montgomery, there is an underground river, a river with there are sharks in the water. I should have read this during Shark Month. Still murmuring ho ho ho, Chris dove headfirst into the Stygian blackness. The water closed over him and nothing more could be seen save the thrashing of sharks. So Santa just is murmuring ho 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 this whole time while he's ho ho massacring a bunch of people in green suits, and he's just ho ho hoing into the water fighting sharks. I love this story. Less than an hour later, the entire Alabama State House and much of the public square went straight up in a hellfire explosion of such ferocity that windows were knocked out in the back houses of uh I don't love this story anymore. Uh I don't know where you're going with Harlan Ellison. Your heart's in the right place, but that doesn't give you an excuse to use slurs, bro. That was the end of the chapter too. Okay. Uh, I mean, drink another water. My throat's getting dry. We're at the tail end, guys. I don't think he killed George Wallace. What the heck? He killed a bunch of sharks. But okay, so Santa Claus is now back at the North Pole with his lady friend. She was lightly scraping her long painted fingernails down his naked back. He lay prone on the bed, occasionally reaching to the nightstand for a pull on the whiskey and water. The livid scars that still pulsed on his back seemed to attract her. She wet her full lips and her naked. Oh, it's getting hot and heavy. Her naked, large nipple breath heaved as she surveyed his body. Someone's someone speaking. I'm trying to see whose voice it is. He fought to the end. The son of a bitch was the only one of the 8 who really liked. Okay, it's Santa Claus. Okay. He fought to the end. The son of a bitch was the only one of the 8 who really liked that black thing in his head. Really, genuinely evil. Worst of the bunch. No wonder Spider picked him to ramrod the 8-point plan. So George Wallace was the only one who was truly, truly evil, who liked being possessed by Spider. He buried his face in the pillow as though trying to blot out the memory of what had gone before. I waited 3.5 months for you to come. I don't know. That was his lady friend. I waited 3.5 months for you to come back, the blonde said, tidying her bosom. The least you can do is tell me where you were. He turned over and grabbed her. He pulled her down to him and ran his hands over her lush flesh. She seemed to be burning with a special heat. Much, much later, sometime in mid-January, he released her and said, he released her and said, "Maybe it's just too goddamn ugly to talk about. All I'll say is that if there had been any chance of saving that Wallace mother from his own meanness, I'd have taken it. He was killed when the underground caverns blew, sank half the state of Alabama. Funny thing was, it sank mostly Funny thing was, it sank mostly Caucasian holdings. All the ghettos are still standing. The new governor, Shabazz. All right, so that's a okay. So the new governor of Alabama is a Malcolm X stand-in. Shabazz X Turner has declared the entire state a disaster area, and he's got the Black Cross organized to come in and help all the poor white folks who were refugeed by the explosion. That bastard Wallace must have had the entire state wired. Okay. All right. So Spider's ultimate plan was to disenfranchise black people. And when blowing up the state house, it blew up affluent white neighborhoods. And so now you have a bunch of white refugees coming into the black neighborhoods. And the new governor of Alabama, not Malcolm X, has declared state of emergency and is organizing to help with the issue. But Santa Claus blew up the building. Okay. Yeah, this story went everywhere, man. And so his lady friend says, "It all sounds dreadful." Dreadful. You know what he had in his part of the 8-point plan? The girl looked at him wide-eyed. I'll tell you. It was his job, through the use of tremendously sophisticated equipment, to harden the thought processes of the young, to age them, to set their concepts like concrete. When he exploded all that devil's machinery, suddenly everyone started thinking freely, digging each other, turning to one another, and realizing that the world was in a sorry state, and that what they'd been sure of a moment before might just possibly be in question. He was literally turning the young into old, and it was causing aging. What? Lady friend says, "You mean we don't age naturally?" Santa Claus says, "Hell no, it was Spider. That was making us get older and older and fall apart. Now we'll all stay the way we are, reach an age physically of about 36 or 7, and then coast on about for another 2 or 300 years. And oh yeah, no cancer." So Spider is behind racist housing policies, defunding mental facilities. Spider is behind aging and cancer too. Okay. And also smog and global warming. She laid on her back, and Chris traced a pattern on her stomach with his large, scarred hands. "Just one thing," the blonde said. "Yeah, what's that?" What was Spider's 8-point plan all about? I mean, aside from the individual elements of making everyone hate everyone else, what were they trying for? Chris shrugged. "That, and what the name Spider means, we may never know. Now that their organization has been broken up, shame. I would have liked to have known." Ooh, ooh, plot twist, plot twist. Ooh, okay, I'm gonna try and make like a demon voice. "And you will know," a voice suddenly said, inside Chris's head. The blonde rose up off the bed and withdrew a deadly stinger pistol from beneath the pillow. "Our agents are everywhere," she said, telepathically. "You," Chris had. I love when writers use the term ejaculated when they mean like saying something. So Chris, Santa Claus, you ejaculated. I'm not doing the voice for this whole thing. "Since the moment you returned after Christmas, while you were recuperating from our wounds, lying there unconscious, I slipped in, the Spider. Having trailed you from Alabama, that's why you never found evidence that Wallace's symbiote had self-destructed. I slipped in and invaded this poor husk. What made you think you had beaten us, fool? We are everywhere. We came to this planet 60 years ago. Check your history. You'll find the exact date. We are here and here we stay for the present to wage a terrorist war, but soon to take everything for ourselves. The 8 point plan is the most ambitious to date. Ambitious, Chris sneered. Hate, madness, cancer, prejudice, confusion, subservience, smog, corruption, aging. What kind of filth are you? We are Spider, the voice said, while the blonde held the needle on him. And once you know what Spider stands for, you will know what our 8 point plan was intended to do to you, poor, weak Earthmen. Watch. The voice was jubilant, and the spider symbiote crawled out of her ear and darted for Chris's throat. He reacted instantly, spinning off the bed. The symbiote missed his throat by micromillimeters. Chris hit the wall, shoved off with a bare foot, and dove back onto the bed, scrambling around, the blonde grabbing her hand and directing the needle of the weapon at the symbiote. It scuttled for cover even as a lethal blast. Chris grabbed her, the deadly nightshade on the bedstand. He hurled the deadly nightshade. Instantly, all of the underground toy making complex was awash in darkness. Oh, yeah, the 2 mile darkness thing. That came back. Schrodinger's darkness pen thing. He felt the blonde jerk in his grasp, and he knew that the spider symbiote had fled back to its one place of safety, inside of her. He had no choice but to kill her. Sure, why not? But she threw the needle away and was locked there in eternal darkness on the bed, holding her body as it struggled to free itself. And he was forced by his nakedness to kill her using the one. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Ah. I'm back to not loving the story again. Give me a minute. So, what just went down was Santa Claus, um, for a solid week, just uh, uh, forced. He raped his girlfriend for a week until she died. What the hell? When it was over, the darkness had cleared. He lay there thinking, exhausted, 10 pounds lighter, weak as a kitten, and thinking, oh, I'm not having fun anymore, guys. Santa? No raping, Santa. No. Now he knew what spider meant. Symbiote was small, black, hairy, scuttled on many little legs. 8 point plan was intended to make people feel bad. That symbols make them feel simply crummy. Crummy people kill each other, and people who kill each other leave a world intact enough for Spider. Look, even bad Santa, like he got drunk and robbed like safes. That's it. This is very bad. He's on the naughty list. Full stop. Naughty list Santa. Crummy people kill each other, and people who kill each other leave a world intact enough for Spider. All he had to do was delete the periods. So Spider has been this entire time an acronym, and all he had to do was delete the periods. So Spider is just Spider. The time motion studies came in the next week. They said that okay, so we're almost at the end. So Spider doesn't actually stand for anything. Spider is just spiders, alien spiders. Oh man, freaking bad Santa. So we're at the tail end, guys. We're an hour and 40 in. We're at the tail end here. The time motion studies came in the next week. They said that the deliveries this past holiday had been the sloppiest on record. Chris and Popo shuffled the reports and smiled. Well, it would be better next year. No wonder it was so sloppy this year. How effective was a Santa Claus who was really an imposter? How effective could Santa Claus be when he was Popo and Corlo, the two elves? The one standing on the other shoulders wearing a red suit 3 sizes too big for them. But with Chris laid up from saving the world and some other things, they had no choice. There were complaints coming in from all over, even from Hilltop. Popo, Chris said when the phones refused to cease clanging. I'm not taking any calls. They want me, they can reach me at Antibes. I'm going off to sleep for 3 months. They can reach me in April sometime. I wish I could sleep for 3 months. That'd be sweet. He started out of the office just as Corlo ran in, a wild expression on his face. And here we have more gibberish. Geeble gip, freesy, jim jim, Corlo said. Chris slumped back in his seat. He dropped his head into his hands. Everything went wrong. Everything went wrong. Dasher knocked up Vixen. And Chris says, the shits just won't let you live. Chris murmured and began crying. So our story ends with Santa Claus saying the shits just won't let you live. And he began crying after learning that Dasher knocked up Vixen and a bunch of other stuff. Oh boy. Ooh, we have an editor's note. The astute reader, not a dry eye in the house. Yes, Richard. Crying Santa. Editor's note. The astute reader will be quick to notice that Mr. Ellison's story had one small flaw in it. The insidious 8-point plan completely ignores the Republican vice president candidate, Mr. Sparrow Agnew. Apparently, the author forgot him. Apparently, the author was not the only one. Oh boy. The end. So that was fun for the most part. I'm happy to see a lot of you stayed. That was a wild ride. We have a very interesting Christmas story this year. And we have some really nice donations. I know that Baldy Bloke, he donated $50 directly. I'm checking. I'm checking the Venmo. I don't know how many of you made direct donations to the food bank that this was for. But I've gotten 0 donations on Venmo. It's very sad. But I am glad Baldy Blow came in with that $50, and I'd like to thank some of you also donated directly to the food bank. Other than that, I think it's been a pretty good night. We made some good time. We had some laughs. Read all of Lonesome Dove next time. Is Lonesome Dove another Ellison story? Lonesome Dove. Or is that another Christmas story? I'm not familiar with that, Richard. Larry McMurtry. Okay, I will look into that. Lonesome Dove, Larry McMurtry. It's long. Dude, it's supposed to be some short stories. I mean, I'll read it. I'll read it at some point, but I don't think I'll be able to do it for a live stream. JK. All right. No, I'm not gonna take it as a joke. I'm gonna read it. All right. It's your favorite book? Oh, no, then I'll definitely look into it. Yeah. All right, guys. This was fun. We've all learned something today. We learned that the Santa suit is just a fat suit. It is loaded with all the explosions. And and all the bad things in the world comes from evil alien spiders. Okay. All right. So I think we are done for the night, unless anyone wants to add any more donations. I'm going to put a link one more time for the JBJ Food Bank. If you want to make a direct donation to there, and also to the Venmo account that I set up for this. All right. So, what did everyone think of Harlan Ellison, Santa Claus versus Spider? Was it just a fun time, or to get a little too crazy at the end? My fiance is telling me I did a really great job and that she loves me and that I did great. No. All right, guys. So I'm gonna end the stream. The links to the places to donate are still be up. I hope everyone has a very happy holidays and a merry Christmas. As always, take care.